Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
The impact shattered my left leg and crushed my hip. I remember the sound more than the pain at first, like breaking a bundle of dry branches all at once. The ambulance ride blurred into emergency room chaos. Doctors shouted medical terms I didn't understand. Someone cut my jeans off, while others inserted needles into my arms. Then I met Dr. Harrison Bennett, the orthopedic surgeon who would become more important to my life than I could have imagined that day. He stood over my gurney with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and told me the truth without sugarcoating it. My leg was destroyed. He could try to save it, but amputation was a real possibility. 3 emergency surgeries in the first week alone. They installed titanium rods and plates, rebuilt what they could, salvaged what remained. Recovery was brutal. Physical therapy felt like torture designed by someone who hated me. Every morning I woke up wondering if I would be able to walk to the bathroom or if my leg would buckle beneath me. I learned to use a walker, then crutches, then eventually just one crutch for support. Some days were better than others. Good days meant I could move around my apartment without wanting to scream. Bad days meant lying in bed with ice packs, pain radiating from my hip down to my toes. My sister Amanda and I used to be close. Growing up in our small Ohio town, we were inseparable despite the 3-year age gap. She taught me how to ride a bike without training wheels, stayed up late helping me with math homework, defended me when Tyler Morrison tried to steal my lunch money in 5th grade. She was my protector, my best friend, the person I looked up to more than anyone. But college changed her. She went to a prestigious school on the East Coast, made new friends, discovered ambitions bigger than our hometown could contain. She came back less and less, always busy with internships or networking events. After graduation, she landed a marketing job in New York City and transformed into someone I barely recognized. Designer clothes, expensive haircuts, vocabulary filled with corporate jargon. She visited maybe twice a year, always in a hurry, always checking her phone. Our mother got sick 3 years after my accident. Cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. Amanda sent money for medical bills but rarely came home. I took care of Mom, drove her to chemotherapy appointments, held her hand through the worst nights, all while managing my own disability and chronic pain. Mom passed away on a rainy Thursday in October. Amanda flew in for the funeral, stayed 2 days, then returned to her important job and important life. Dad struggled after losing Mom. He aged overnight, his hair going white, his shoulders hunching forward like he carried an invisible weight. I stayed close, checked on him daily, made sure he ate real meals instead of just coffee and toast. Amanda called him every Sunday evening for exactly 15 minutes, like clockwork, like an appointment she penciled into her calendar. When Dad's 60th birthday approached, I wanted to do something special. I spent weeks planning a backyard party, coordinating with his friends, arranging catering, setting up decorations. My leg throbbed from all the standing and walking, but seeing Dad smile made it worthwhile. Amanda said she would try to make it. No promises. Her schedule was crazy. She showed up the morning of the party in a rental car, wearing clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She immediately started telling people she had organized everything, dropping hints about how much effort she put into making Dad's day special. I bit my tongue. Family harmony mattered more than my ego. Sarah, my girlfriend, noticed though. She squeezed my hand and whispered that she saw the truth, that I didn't need credit from people who refused to see clearly. Sarah worked as a physical therapist at the rehabilitation center where I did some of my recovery. She understood chronic pain, knew the difference between someone faking and someone fighting. We started dating 2 years ago, and she became my anchor when pain threatened to pull me under. She saw me at my worst and never flinched, never pitied, just loved me exactly as I was. The party filled our backyard with 50 guests, neighbors and old friends, people who watched me grow up and helped Dad after Mom died. Dad beamed, wearing the new shirt I bought him, greeting everyone with hugs and handshakes. Amanda floated through the crowd like a celebrity, talking about her projects and accomplishments, her voice carrying over conversations. I noticed her glancing at me throughout the afternoon, her expression somewhere between irritation and contempt. When I shifted my weight on my crutch, She rolled her eyes. When Sarah brought me a chair, Amanda made a comment about me being weighted on hand and foot. Little cuts, small enough that others might not notice, sharp enough to draw blood. As the sun started setting and Dad prepared to cut his cake, Amanda suddenly grabbed the microphone we had set up for toasts. She tapped it twice, and conversations died down. She smiled wide, the same smile she used in her corporate presentations. She said she had something important to discuss, something that had been bothering her for a long time. She said it was time someone addressed the elephant in the room. My stomach dropped. I knew that tone, that calculated casualness that preceded something cruel. She turned and looked directly at me, her eyes cold despite the smile still plastered on her face. Then she said it. She announced to everyone gathered that she could not stay silent any longer about my condition. She had done research, talked to medical friends, and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. After 6 years, I should be completely healed. The fact that I still used a crutch, still claimed to be in pain, still acted disabled, suggested something disturbing. I was faking it. I had been faking it for years, and someone needed to call me out. The backyard went silent. 50 people froze mid-conversation, mid-bite, mid-sip, all eyes turned toward me. I felt my face flush hot, my hands tightening around the grip of my crutch until my knuckles went white. Amanda continued talking, her voice taking on that syrupy, concerned tone people use when they pretend to care while stabbing you in the back. She told the crowd she loved me, that this intervention came from a place of caring. She said she had researched my type of injury extensively online, consulted with medical professionals in her network. According to her sources, a broken leg healed in 6 to 8 months, maybe a year for complicated cases. But 6 years? That was excessive, suspicious, convenient. She pointed out how I conveniently had the crutch whenever family was around, whenever there might be sympathy to gain or expectations to lower. She mentioned seeing me at a coffee shop 2 months ago when she visited for a day without telling anyone. She claimed I was walking just fine, no assistive devices, completely normal. Only when I noticed her did I suddenly start limping again, suddenly need support. I tried to speak, to explain that chronic pain doesn't follow a neat timeline, that nerve damage is permanent, that I have good days and bad days. She cut me off, her voice rising over mine. She said that was exactly what someone faking would say. Always an excuse, always a justification. She called my crutch a pity prop. Those exact words, a theatrical device I used to manipulate people's emotions and lower their expectations of me. She said I had gotten workers' compensation money from the accident, implying I was financially benefiting from a performance. She suggested I used my supposed disability to avoid hard work, to make others feel sorry for me, to be the center of attention. The guests shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Garcia, who lived 3 houses down, covered her mouth with her hand. Mr. Patterson, Dad's friend from the hardware store, stared at his shoes. A few people whispered to each other. No one knew where to look or what to say. This was Dad's birthday party, supposed to be a celebration, and it had turned into something ugly and confrontational. Dad stepped forward, his face pale, his voice shaking. He told Amanda this was neither the time nor the place, that they could discuss this privately later. Amanda shook her head firmly. She said privacy was what enabled my deception. Public accountability was necessary. She was doing this for my own good, for the family's good, for everyone's good. She went on about how our mother had babied me, how the whole family tiptoed around my supposed limitations, how it needed to stop. She said tough love was required. Someone had to be brave enough to tell the truth. And since no one else would, she had to. My leg throbbed from standing too long. I needed to sit down, needed to get weight off my hip before the pain became unbearable. I took a step toward the nearest chair, and my leg buckled slightly. I caught myself on the crutch, steadying my balance. Amanda laughed. Actually laughed, a sharp bark of amusement. She pointed at me and said that was exactly what she meant. So dramatic, so performative. Then she did something I will never forget. She mimicked my limp, exaggerating the motion, limping in a circle with her hand held up like she was holding an invisible crutch. Some of the younger guests gasped. Others looked away in embarrassment. She was mocking me. In front of my father. In front of my girlfriend. In front of my entire community. Sarah moved toward me, her face flushed with anger, ready to defend me. I held up my hand to stop her. I did not want a scene. Did not want to fight back and make things worse. Make Dad's birthday even more of a disaster. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Refused to give Amanda more ammunition, more proof that I was seeking sympathy. My mind raced through memories, trying to understand when my sister became this person. I remembered her at 16, crying in my room because a boy broke her heart, me bringing her ice cream and letting her vent for hours. I remembered her at 22, nervous before her college graduation, me telling her how proud I was of everything she accomplished. I remembered her at Mom's funeral, hollow-eyed and distant, me hugging her while she stood stiff and unresponsive. What happened to her? Was it the corporate world that hardened her, taught her to see vulnerability as weakness? Was it distance, physical and emotional, that let her forget who we used to be? Was it jealousy, resentment, that I stayed close to home and our parents while she chased success? Or was this always inside her, just waiting for the right moment to surface? The crowd remained frozen in horrified silence. No one knew how to respond to such a public, vicious attack. Dad looked like he might cry. Sarah's hand found mine, squeezing hard, silently telling me she was there. She believed me. She saw the truth. But her support could not erase the humiliation, the betrayal, the deep ache of being called a liar by the person who once promised to always protect me. Amanda seemed to feed off the attention, off the shock value. She kept going, saying she had tolerated my excuses for years, but watching me manipulate Dad on his birthday was the final straw. She said I needed to prove I really needed the crutch. She demanded I walk across the yard without it right now, in front of everyone, to settle this once and for all. My hands trembled. My throat felt tight. I had no words, no defense that would not sound like exactly what she accused me of. The pain in my leg flared hot and sharp, a reminder that my body knew its own truth, even if my sister refused to. Then, the back gate creaked open. Every head turned toward the sound. A man in a white coat walked into the backyard, carrying a thick manila folder. Dr. Harrison Bennett, my surgeon, the man who saved my leg, the man who knew every surgery, every complication, every moment of my medical history. He was supposed to come to the party but had been delayed at the hospital with an emergency. He arrived just in time to hear every poisonous word my sister said. His face was calm, professionally neutral, but his eyes were sharp. He walked through the parting crowd until he stood in the center of the yard, directly between Amanda and me. He looked at her and spoke in a clear, carrying voice. He said he apologized for overhearing, but given what was being discussed, he felt compelled to intervene. Then, he asked Amanda a simple question. Would she mind repeating what she just said? He wanted to make sure he understood her correctly. Amanda's confidence flickered for just a second, like a candle in wind, but she recovered quickly. She straightened her shoulders and smiled at Dr. Bennett with the same polished charm she used in business meetings. She said she was actually relieved a medical professional had arrived because maybe he could help clear things up. She introduced herself as my sister, successful marketing executive, concerned family member who just wanted what was best for everyone. Dr. Bennett nodded politely and introduced himself. He told the guests he was an orthopedic surgeon at County General Hospital, specializing in traumatic injuries and reconstructive procedures. He mentioned he had known our family for years, had operated on me multiple times, and considered Dad a friend. His voice remained calm and measured, the tone of someone who delivered difficult news to patients every day. He turned back to Amanda and repeated his request. He wanted her to state clearly, for everyone present, what she believed about my medical condition. Amanda hesitated for half a second, then seemed to convince herself she was right. She told Dr. Bennett that based on her research and consultation with medical contacts, I should be fully healed by now. She believed I was exaggerating symptoms, using assistive devices unnecessarily, and manipulating family sympathy for personal gain. Dr. Bennett listened without interruption, his expression unchanged. When she finished, he asked her a series of simple questions. Did she have medical training? She admitted she did not. Had she reviewed my actual medical records? She said she had not needed to. Her research was thorough enough. Had she attended any of my surgeries or post-operative appointments? She said no. She had been busy building her career, but she kept informed. Dr. Bennett nodded slowly, as if processing information. He asked the gathered crowd for their attention, said what he was about to share was important, and they deserved to hear facts rather than speculation. I tried to stop him, embarrassed at the thought of my medical details being aired publicly. But he gently insisted. He said if we were going to discuss my condition in front of 50 people, we should discuss it accurately. He opened the manila folder and pulled out several documents. He explained these were copies of my medical records, which I had previously authorized him to discuss if necessary. He began reading key details in clear, clinical language that somehow made everything more real and terrible. Initial injury, compound fracture of the left femur, catastrophic damage to the hip socket, severe trauma to the sciatic nerve. He explained in layman's terms that my thigh bone had broken through the skin, splintering into multiple pieces. The impact crushed the socket where my leg connected to my pelvis, destroying cartilage and bone. Nerve damage meant signals between my brain and leg were permanently disrupted. 3 emergency surgeries in the first week. The first to clean the wound and prevent infection that could have cost me the leg. The second to install titanium rods through the length of my femur, holding shattered bone fragments in alignment. The third to reconstruct the hip socket with plates and screws, creating an artificial framework for healing. He described the complications: infections that required additional antibiotics and monitoring, muscle atrophy from months of limited movement, blood clots that necessitated medication and careful management, each setback adding weeks to recovery, each problem spawning new challenges. He flipped to another page and explained my current condition: permanent partial disability with degenerative complications. The titanium hardware was a permanent fixture in my body. The nerve damage caused chronic neuropathic pain, a type of pain that came from damaged nerves misfiring, sending pain signals even when no new injury existed. Some days the pain was manageable with medication and movement. Other days it was excruciating, making even basic tasks feel impossible. Dr. Bennett addressed Amanda's claim about seeing me walk without the crutch. He explained that chronic pain patients often have variable symptoms. On good days, when pain levels are lower and inflammation is minimal, mobility improves. Patients push themselves to function as normally as possible. But those good days do not erase the underlying condition. They are temporary respites, not signs of healing. He detailed my physical therapy regimen, which I had followed religiously for years. He said most patients with my level of injury ended up in wheelchairs permanently. The fact that I could walk at all was a testament to my determination and pain tolerance. I exceeded every benchmark, worked harder than almost any patient he had treated. My progress was remarkable, not suspicious. Then Dr. Bennett addressed the workers' compensation claim Amanda had mentioned. He explained that such compensation barely covered medical bills, which totaled over $200,000. After insurance and compensation, I still owed tens of thousands in debt. I had not profited from my injury. I had been financially devastated by it. The crowd listened in rapt silence. Several people wiped their eyes. Mrs. Garcia openly cried. Mr. Patterson's jaw was clenched tight, his hands balled into fists. Dad stared at me with an expression of heartbreak and guilt, realizing how much I had hidden from him, how much pain I carried alone. Sarah stood beside me, her hand on my back, supporting me as my legs shook from standing too long. Amanda's face had gone pale, her earlier confidence draining away like water from a broken glass. But Dr. Bennett was not finished. He flipped to the final page in the folder and revealed something I had not told anyone yet. Within the next year, I would need another major surgery. The titanium hardware was failing. Bone deterioration had begun around the implants. Without intervention, I risked complete hip failure and permanent loss of mobility. I had scheduled the surgery for 2 months from now, but had not mentioned it to family because I did not want to burden anyone, especially not during Dad's milestone birthday celebration. The revelation hit the crowd like a physical blow. Dad made a small sound, like a wounded animal. Sarah's grip tightened on my back. Several guests gasped or murmured, and Amanda, standing in the center of it all, with the microphone still in her hand, looked like she might faint. "Doctor." Bennett closed the folder and looked directly at her. He said in a quiet but firm voice that chronic pain and disability were not performances. They were daily battles fought by people who deserved compassion, not accusation. He said family should be a source of support, not suspicion. He hoped she would take time to reflect on her words and their impact. Then he walked over to me, placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, and asked if I needed to sit down. My leg was about to give out, pain shooting through my hip like lightning. I nodded, and he helped me to a chair while Sarah positioned another chair to elevate my leg. The simple act of care, of being seen and believed, broke something open inside me. Silence hung over the backyard like humidity before a storm. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Amanda stood frozen, the microphone dangling from her hand, her mouth opening and closing without producing words. Her carefully constructed accusation had crumbled into dust, and she stood in the wreckage without a map to guide her out. Dad moved first. He crossed the yard with tears streaming down his weathered face and knelt beside my chair. His hands shook as he took mine, and he apologized over and over. He was sorry for not knowing the full extent of my condition. Sorry for not protecting me from this humiliation. Sorry for being blind to my suffering. I told him there was nothing to apologize for, that I had chosen to downplay everything to avoid worrying him. But he shook his head and said a father should know, should see, should be there. Sarah crouched on my other side and spoke up, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. She told the crowd something I had never wanted to make public. She explained that I worked through pain levels that would hospitalize most people, that I refused strong painkillers because I did not want to risk addiction, choosing to suffer rather than numb myself into dependency, that she had watched me cry from pain in private while maintaining composure in public because I valued dignity over sympathy. She revealed that I volunteered at a youth sports program 3 times a week, teaching kids with injuries about perseverance and recovery, that I donated my time to help young athletes facing similar challenges, giving them hope when their worlds felt destroyed by physical limitations. That I never mentioned this to anyone because I did not do it for recognition. I did it because I remembered being terrified and alone in a hospital bed, and I wanted to spare others that isolation. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat and stepped forward. His voice was gruff with emotion as he addressed the crowd. He shared a story I had forgotten. 2 years ago, his grandson Jeremy tore his ACL playing football, ending his athletic scholarship hopes. The kid fell into depression, stopped eating, talked about giving up. Mr. Patterson brought Jeremy to meet me. We talked for hours about adapting to new limitations, finding different paths, building identity beyond physical ability. Jeremy was now studying sports medicine, planning to help other injured athletes. He credited me with saving his life. Mrs. Garcia spoke next, her accent thickening with emotion. She talked about when her husband died 5 years ago, how overwhelmed she felt by household tasks he used to handle. I showed up one Saturday morning and repaired her fence, fixed her leaking gutter, taught her basic home maintenance. When she tried to pay me, I refused. I told her neighbors help neighbors, no payment required. I came back monthly to help with heavy lifting or repairs, never asking for anything, always patient, despite my own physical limitations. Hello. I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. She tried to speak, to defend herself, but her voice came out wrong, too high and strained. She said she had not known, had not realized, had thought she was helping by being honest, but the words rang hollow even to her own ears. Mr. Patterson interrupted her stammering excuses. He looked at her with disappointment rather than anger and said something that cut through all pretense. He told her that success meant nothing if it required stepping on the people who loved you. That money and titles were poor substitutes for human decency. That she might impress strangers with her accomplishments, but she had failed the most basic test, being a good sister. Amanda's mouth trembled. She tried a different approach, her voice taking on a defensive edge. She accused everyone of ganging up on her, of making her the villain when she was just trying to help. She said maybe she was wrong about the medical details, but her broader point stood. I got more attention, more sympathy, more love from Dad and the community. She felt invisible, forgotten, punished for succeeding and moving away. The truth finally emerged, bitter and raw. She was jealous. Jealous that I stayed close to home while she pursued her dreams. Guilty that I cared for Mom during her final illness while she sent money but rarely visited. Resentful that the community loved me for who I was while they only knew her as the daughter who left. Her accusations about my injury were never about concern. They were about her own pain, her own inadequacy, her own emptiness. Dr. Bennett, who had stepped back to let the community speak, interjected quietly. He said that staying close to family while suffering was not manipulation. It was courage. That choosing presence over profit was not failure. It was wisdom. That Amanda's external success meant little if it came at the cost of internal isolation. Dad finally found his voice, moving from my side to stand facing Amanda. He spoke firmly, without yelling, but with authority I rarely heard from him. He said what she did was unacceptable and cruel, that she owed me an apology, owed everyone an apology, that regardless of her feelings or frustrations, publicly humiliating her disabled brother at a family celebration was wrong on every level. She needed to make this right, starting immediately. Amanda's lips pressed into a thin line. Instead of apologizing, she lashed out one more time. She accused me of planning this dramatic moment with Dr. Bennett, of orchestrating a public relations campaign to make her look bad. She said I probably told everyone to prepare stories to share, to paint me as a saint and her as a monster. She was being set up, manipulated, victimized. Sarah had reached her limit. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her photos, finding what she was looking for. She held it up for everyone to see. It was a screenshot from 2 months ago, from Amanda's private social media account. The post showed a video she had recorded at that coffee shop she mentioned, the one where she claimed to see me walking fine without my crutch. Sarah played the video. It showed me entering the coffee shop using my crutch, moving slowly, stopping twice to rest my leg. It showed me sitting down with visible relief, massaging my hip through my jeans. It showed me leaving 10 minutes later, again with my crutch. Again, moving carefully. The video proved I had not been walking normally. Amanda had lied. But worse than the lie was what Amanda had written in the post caption. She mocked me, made jokes about my crutch being a fashion accessory, called me pathetic for milking sympathy. She tagged it with hashtags mocking disability. Sarah had screenshot everything before Amanda could delete it. The proof of calculated cruelty sat on a phone screen for 50 people to see. The evidence was undeniable. This was not a misunderstanding or concern gone wrong. This was deliberate, sustained mockery of her disabled brother. Amanda's face turned gray. She had no defense left, no excuse that could explain away such viciousness. She stood completely exposed, every pretense stripped away, facing the truth of who she had become. I reached for the microphone in Amanda's limp hand. She released it without resistance, her fingers trembling. For years I had stayed quiet, absorbed insults, made peace rather than waves. But something shifted in that moment. Sitting in a chair with my elevated leg throbbing, and my community surrounding me with support, I found my voice, not from anger but from clarity. I addressed Amanda first, then the wider crowd. I spoke about our childhood, the sister who protected me from bullies on the playground, the girl who stayed up late helping me build a science fair project about solar energy, the teenager who taught me how to talk to girls without stuttering. Those memories were real. That person existed. I needed everyone to know I was not denying the good that came before, even as I confronted the harm happening now. I explained why I never defended myself when she made cutting comments over the years. Love, yes, but also hope. I kept hoping she would remember who we used to be. That distance and time would eventually bring her back to herself. I thought if I stayed patient, stayed kind, stayed present, she would see me clearly again. But hope without boundaries is just another word for allowing abuse. I talked about what chronic pain really meant in daily life terms people could understand. I described waking up every morning and lying still for a few minutes, mentally cataloging which parts of my body hurt and how badly, planning my day around energy levels and pain thresholds, choosing between going to the grocery store or meeting a friend for coffee because I only had stamina for one activity, canceling plans at the last minute when my leg gave out unexpectedly, the guilt of disappointing people mixed with the frustration of an unreliable body. I explained the isolation that comes with invisible disability. People see you on good days and assume those days represent your normal. They do not see the bad days spent in bed with ice packs and heating pads. They do not witness the private struggles, the tears shed in empty rooms, the bargaining with your own body to just cooperate for a few more hours. Chronic pain is lonely because it is impossible to fully explain to someone who has never experienced it. I admitted my own mistakes. I hid the full extent of my condition from family because I did not want to be a burden. I minimized symptoms and downplayed limitations because I valued their peace of mind over my own honesty. I let Amanda's comments slide to avoid conflict, teaching her that I would accept poor treatment rather than fight back. Those choices were mine, and they contributed to this moment. But I was making a different choice now. I would no longer be silent about my pain, physical or emotional. I would not protect others at the cost of my own dignity. I would speak my truth and let people decide how to respond, but I would not shrink myself to make their responses easier. I thanked Dr. Bennett for his integrity and willingness to speak uncomfortable truths. I thanked Sarah for seeing me completely and loving me anyway. I thanked my father for his immediate support once he understood the situation fully. I thanked the community for sharing their stories, for bearing witness, for caring enough to show up. Then I turned to Amanda and said the hardest words. I told her I forgave her, not because what she did was acceptable, but because holding anger would poison me more than her. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting or excusing. It meant releasing the expectation that she would magically transform into the sister I needed her to be. She was who she was, and I had to accept that reality. But forgiveness also came with boundaries. She needed to face what she did and decide who she wanted to become. I would not enable her denial or protect her from consequences. If she wanted a relationship with me moving forward, she would have to earn it through sustained change and genuine amends. Words were easy. Actions over time would prove sincerity. I shared the news about my upcoming surgery properly, looking at Dad as I spoke. I admitted I was scared. The surgery was complex. Recovery would be long. Outcomes were uncertain, but I had faced fear before and survived. I survived the accident, the surgeries, the rehabilitation, the chronic pain. I would survive this too, with or without Amanda's support. I looked around at the gathered community and felt overwhelming gratitude. These people became my real family when biology failed me. They showed up, offered help without being asked, loved me without conditions. Amanda had success and status, but I built something more valuable. I built connections based on authenticity rather than performance. I created meaning through service rather than achievement. My life looked nothing like what I planned, but it was deeply purposeful. I turned back to Dad and apologized for his birthday becoming this. He deserved celebration, not confrontation. He crossed to me immediately and wrapped me in a hug, careful of my leg. He whispered that this was exactly what he needed. Not a party with fake smiles and surface conversations, but honest truth from his son. He was proud of me, proud of my strength, proud of who I became despite everything working against me. The crowd erupted in supportive applause. People approached offering help with my upcoming surgery. Mrs. Garcia organized a meal train on the spot. Mr. Patterson volunteered to drive me to appointments. The Thompsons offered to help with household tasks during recovery. The community rallied, turning Amanda's attack into an opportunity for collective care. Amanda suddenly collapsed into a nearby chair, her body folding like paper. Sobs racked her frame, deep and guttural. But these tears were different from manipulative crying. They came from somewhere genuine and broken. She covered her face with her hands and cried like I had not seen her cry since Mom's funeral. Maybe even before that. Between gasping breaths, words tumbled out. She confessed she was drowning. Her corporate job demanded 80-hour weeks with impossible targets. She had no real friends, just networking contacts. Her apartment was expensive and empty. She ate takeout alone most nights while answering emails. She felt like a failure despite external markers of success. Every promotion brought more pressure, more isolation, more hollowness. She saw my struggle and felt envy instead of compassion. Envy that I had purpose and community love, while she had neither. Envy that I stayed true to myself while she transformed into someone unrecognizable. Her attack was projection, taking her own pain and shame and throwing it at the easiest target. It did not excuse her behavior, but it explained the poison behind it. She admitted she needed help, professional help. She recognized something was deeply wrong in how she viewed the world and treated people. She wanted to change but did not know if she deserved the chance. Did not know if I should give her that chance after what she did. The confession shifted something in the air. Anger transformed into complicated understanding. Amanda was cruel, yes, but she was also suffering in ways she hid behind designer clothes and corporate achievements. Her attack was wrong, but it came from a place of her own unaddressed trauma and isolation. The situation was more complex than simple villain and victim. Dad moved to sit between Amanda and me, physically positioning himself as bridge between his broken children. His face showed the weight of every parent's nightmare, watching their kids hurt each other and not knowing how to fix it. He spoke quietly, admitting his own failures. He put too much pressure on Amanda to succeed, to be the one who escaped small-town limitations. He took my strength for granted, assumed I was fine because I never complained. He failed both of us in different ways. He said Mom's death fractured the family in ways they never addressed. They avoided grief, buried pain, pretended everything was fine when everything was falling apart. They needed to talk honestly, to heal intentionally, or risk losing each other completely. This moment, as painful as it was, might be their last chance to choose differently. Dr. Bennett, still present, offered perspective as someone outside family dynamics. He explained that serious illness and disability often revealed existing fractures in relationships. Some families grew stronger through crisis, others shattered. The difference usually came down to willingness to communicate honestly and forgive imperfectly. This moment was a crossroads, not an ending. I faced a genuine choice. I could cut Amanda out completely, which would be justified and protect me from future hurt. Or I could offer a conditional path to reconciliation, knowing she might fail, knowing I might get hurt again. Neither choice was wrong. Both carried consequences. Sarah leaned close and whispered that whatever I chose, she supported me. She would stand beside me if I walked away from Amanda forever. She would stand beside me if I tried to rebuild the relationship. My choice, my terms, my boundaries. I looked at Amanda, still crying in the chair, stripped of pretense and polish. I remembered her at 8 years old, teaching me to ride a bike by running alongside until I found my balance. I remembered her at 14, defending me when kids made fun of my glasses. I remembered her at 18, hugging me goodbye before leaving for college, promising we would always be close. That girl still existed somewhere inside the woman who attacked me, but promises alone would not bring her back. I needed to see change, sustained and genuine, before I could trust her again. I asked her direct questions, my voice steady. Did she understand the harm she caused today? Was she willing to learn about my actual medical condition instead of making assumptions? Would she be present for my surgery and recovery, actually present and helpful? Could she rebuild trust through consistent actions over time, not just words spoken in a moment of crisis? Amanda looked up, her face blotchy and streaked with tears. She answered honestly, without defensiveness. Yes, she understood she was cruel and wrong. She was ashamed and horrified at herself. She wanted to change, but acknowledged she did not know if I should give her the chance. She admitted she needed therapy for her own mental health issues. She had been having panic attacks for months, felt empty despite career success, recognized something was fundamentally broken in how she operated. She said if I was willing to try, she would prove herself through action. She would attend therapy and learn about chronic pain conditions. She would be present for my surgery and recovery in practical, helpful ways. She would apologize individually to every person she embarrassed me in front of. Most importantly, she would rebuild our relationship slowly. Accepting that trust was earned, not demanded, I set clear boundaries. An apology was necessary, but not sufficient. She needed to demonstrate change through sustained behavior over months, not days. She would respect my limitations without judgment or skepticism. She would attend family therapy with Dad and me to address deeper issues. She would prove she valued relationship over ego, connection over control. Amanda agreed to everything without hesitation or negotiation. She understood she had no leverage, no right to make demands. She was asking for grace she had not earned and might never deserve. Dad suggested family therapy for all three of them, addressing grief from losing Mom that they never properly processed. Her death drove them apart when it should have brought them together. They needed professional help to navigate complicated emotions and years of accumulated hurt. The party transformed into something unexpected, not a celebration, but a crisis that might lead to healing. Guests began dispersing, but not with gossip or judgment. They offered support to both Amanda and me, showing the grace of a community that understood people were complex and situations were rarely simple. Mrs. Garcia hugged Amanda despite everything, told her everyone deserved a chance to grow. She shared her own story of estrangement from her sister for 10 years over a stupid argument, how she regretted every lost moment after her sister died suddenly. Life was too short and fragile to hold grudges when people genuinely wanted to change. Mr. Patterson told Amanda about his own rock-bottom moment 20 years ago, when alcohol nearly destroyed his marriage and career. He got help, did the work, rebuilt trust, brick by brick. It was possible to come back from terrible mistakes, but only through humility and sustained effort. The community showed Amanda something she desperately needed: proof that change was possible, that people could fail badly and still be worthy of second chances. But they also made clear that second chances came with accountability, not absolution. As evening deepened and the party finally ended, my leg gave out completely. I had been sitting for a while, but the stress and standing earlier took their toll. I tried to stand to help clean up, and my leg buckled. I fell hard, would have hit the ground except Amanda was suddenly there, catching me, supporting my weight. For a moment we were kids again, and she was protecting her little brother from harm. She held me steady while Sarah rushed over with my crutch. Amanda helped me back into the chair, asked what she could do, how she could help. Her hands were gentle, her voice soft with genuine concern. It was a small action, maybe meaningless in the scope of everything that happened, but it was genuine. The first step on what would be a very long road back to each other, if we both chose to walk it. 3 months passed between that devastating birthday party and the morning of my surgery. I woke before dawn in the pre-operative room at County General Hospital, wearing a thin gown and surgical socks, an IV already in my arm. The antiseptic smell triggered memories of previous surgeries, but I felt calmer this time, less alone. Sarah sat beside my bed, holding my hand, having been there since 4 in the morning. Dad sat on my other side, alternating between encouraging words and anxious silence. And Amanda sat in the corner chair, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, no makeup, looking nothing like the polished executive who attacked me months ago. She had been showing up, consistently, just as she promised. The first week after the party, she found a therapist who specialized in work-related burnout and family trauma. She started twice-weekly sessions. She requested a leave of absence from her job, shocking her supervisors but recognizing she needed space to heal. She moved back to Ohio temporarily, renting a small apartment near Dad. She visited me every week, sometimes more often. Early visits were awkward and stilted. We did not know how to talk to each other without years of resentment coloring every word. But slowly, incrementally, we rebuilt basic communication. She asked questions about my condition and actually listened to answers. She attended a physical therapy session with me, watching as I worked through exercises, witnessing the pain I pushed through daily. She apologized to party guests individually, showing up at their homes with genuine remorse rather than performative guilt. She donated $5,000 to chronic pain research in my name. She joined Dad and me for family therapy sessions, where we unpacked years of miscommunication and unprocessed grief about Mom. The therapist helped us understand family dynamics we never recognized, how Mom's tendency to overprotect me made Amanda feel invisible, how Dad's pride in Amanda's achievements made me feel inadequate, how Mom's death left us all drowning in separate oceans instead of clinging to each other. The sessions were painful but necessary, like cleaning out infected wounds so healing could begin. Amanda made mistakes during those 3 months. She still sometimes said the wrong thing or misunderstood my limitations, but she corrected herself, apologized quickly, and kept trying. She was learning that change was not a switch you flipped but a practice you committed to daily. On the morning of my surgery, she arrived at the hospital before anyone else. She brought Dad coffee exactly how he liked it. She brought Sarah a breakfast sandwich. She brought me a small gift, a journal she said I could use during recovery to write whatever I needed to process. The gesture was thoughtful and humble, asking nothing in return. Dr. Bennett came by to review surgical plans one final time. He would be replacing the failing hardware in my femur and hip, addressing bone deterioration, attempting to improve long-term stability. The surgery would take 6 to 8 hours. Recovery would be difficult, possibly more challenging than the original surgeries because my body was older and already compromised. I was scared. I admitted it openly to the people surrounding me. Surgery always carried risks. Anesthesia could go wrong. Infections could develop. Hardware could fail again. I might wake up worse than before, facing permanent wheelchair use or even amputation. The fears were real and valid, and I spoke them aloud instead of pretending to be brave. Dad squeezed my shoulder and told me I was the strongest person he knew. Sarah kissed my forehead and promised she would be right there when I woke up. Amanda, with tears in her eyes, thanked me for giving her the chance to be present, to support me the way she should have from the beginning. They wheeled me toward the operating room, and my family followed as far as they were allowed. The last thing I saw before the anesthesia pulled me under was 3 people who loved me, flawed and trying, together. The surgery went well. Dr. Bennett reported afterward that everything proceeded as planned, maybe even better than expected. The new hardware was secure, bone quality was acceptable, prospects for recovery were cautiously optimistic. I spent 2 days in the hospital, then transitioned home with a wheelchair and strict movement restrictions. Amanda proved herself during those weeks. She coordinated the meal train Mrs. Garcia organized, making sure we had food daily. She drove me to follow-up appointments, helped me navigate insurance paperwork, researched pain management strategies. She cleaned, did laundry, picked up prescriptions, handled logistics so Sarah and Dad could focus on emotional support. She never complained, never acted put upon, never made herself the center of attention. She simply showed up and did what needed doing. That consistent presence meant more than any apology ever could. Physical therapy started 4 weeks post-surgery, and it was brutal. Worse than the first time because my body remembered trauma and resisted healing. But I had more support this time. Sarah guided my home exercises with professional expertise and personal patience. Dad cheered every tiny victory. Amanda researched adaptive equipment and meal plans that might help. 6 months after surgery, I sat on the porch with Amanda where the birthday party happened. Evening light turned everything golden and soft. My recovery progressed slowly but steadily. I could walk short distances with 1 crutch, longer distances with 4-arm crutches, longest distances with a wheelchair. I accepted that variation as my new normal rather than fighting against it. Amanda had made a major life decision. She quit her corporate job permanently. The leave of absence showed her how toxic that environment had been, how it rewarded cruelty and punished vulnerability. She was exploring options for work that aligned with her values instead of just her ambitions. She talked about maybe studying social work, using her skills to help rather than sell. We talked honestly that evening about everything. She told me seeing me at my most vulnerable, helping with my most basic needs, transformed her understanding of strength. She realized strength was not about independence or invincibility. Real strength was asking for help, accepting limitations, loving people despite pain. I admitted I sometimes resented her during my initial recovery 6 years ago. Resented that she got to leave and build a life while I stayed and managed catastrophe. But that resentment taught me something crucial about myself. I did not want her life. I wanted mine, complicated and painful as it was, because it was authentic and meaningful. We agreed on a truth that felt important. Family was not about being perfect or never hurting each other. Family was about showing up, especially when showing up was hard. It was about choosing each other repeatedly, forgiving imperfectly, growing together through conflict instead of running from it. Dad joined us on the porch, bringing lemonade Mrs. Garcia made. He settled into his chair with a satisfied sigh. He said the past 6 months were hard but necessary. He had his children back, really back, not just physically present but emotionally connected. That was worth every painful conversation and difficult moment. 8 months after my surgery, Sarah and I got engaged. I proposed on a quiet Saturday morning in our kitchen. Nothing elaborate or perfect, just honest and real. Amanda helped plan the wedding, working alongside Sarah without competition or drama. She was learning to celebrate other people's joy without comparing it to her own life. At a family dinner 2 weeks before the wedding, Dad raised his glass in a toast. He thanked his children for their courage to be honest, to be flawed, to try again when trying seemed pointless. He said he learned more from watching us heal than from any other experience in his life. He was proud of both of us, not for our successes but for our willingness to keep choosing love when fear felt safer. I reflected privately on everything that led to this moment. The accident that shattered my leg also shattered illusions about life being fair or predictable. Recovery taught me resilience, but also showed me the limits of independence. Chronic pain gave me empathy for suffering I might never have understood otherwise. Amanda's attack at the party was devastating, but it forced truth into the open. It revealed fractures that needed addressing and patterns that needed breaking. Her cruelty came from her own pain, and while that did not excuse it, understanding provided a path forward that simple condemnation never would. I learned that protecting yourself meant establishing boundaries, not building walls. It meant standing in your truth and letting others choose their response. Some people rose to meet you there, others walked away. Both outcomes provided necessary information about who deserved space in your life. Real strength, I discovered, was not suffering in silence. It was speaking up when silence became complicity in your own diminishment. It was setting standards for how you deserve to be treated and maintaining those standards even when enforcement cost you relationships. It was having the courage to let people prove they could change while accepting they might not. Pain revealed character, mine and everyone else's. My accident showed me who stayed and who left, who helped and who criticized, who saw me as a whole person and who reduced me to my limitations. But grace allowed redemption. People could fail badly and still be worthy of second chances if they were willing to do the hard work of genuine change. Amanda taught me that sometimes the family that breaks apart is the only family that can truly heal. Staying connected through toxic patterns helped no one. Breaking open, painful as it was, created space for something healthier to grow. We were not the siblings we used to be, but we were building something stronger based on truth instead of illusion. My life looked nothing like what I imagined at 25, before scaffolding gave way and gravity changed everything. I was not the man I planned to be, but I was someone I could respect. I built a life of meaning through service and connection. I loved people who saw me completely. I found purpose in helping others navigate their own pain. The scar on my leg, surgical and silvered now, reminded me daily of what I survived. Not just the accident, but everything that followed. The surgeries and setbacks, the chronic pain and limitations, the betrayal and reconciliation, the breaking and healing. I would not wish my journey on anyone, but I would not trade who I became through it. I learned that you do not have to choose between protecting yourself and loving people. You can set boundaries and still leave doors open. You can forgive and still require accountability. You can love your family and refuse to accept poor treatment. These things are not contradictions. They are the hallmarks of mature love. As I stood at the altar 2 weeks later, Sarah walking toward me in a simple white dress, I understood something profound. My injury took mobility and comfort, but it gave me clarity about what mattered. It stripped away superficial concerns and left only essential truths. Connection over achievement, presence over perfection, love over fear. Amanda stood beside Sarah as a bridesmaid, a role I never imagined possible 8 months ago. But she earned her place there through consistent action and genuine change. She was not perfect, still learning, still growing, but she was trying, and trying mattered. Dad walked Sarah down the aisle, and I saw tears in his eyes. Tears for joy, yes, but also for everything we survived to reach this moment. Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. Genuine accountability and sustained effort can rebuild trust, but only if you accept that forgiveness is offered as grace, not owed as a right. Do the work. Be patient. Prove through actions, not words, that you understand the harm and commit to being different. I learned that protecting yourself does not mean shutting people out. It means standing in your truth and letting others choose how they will respond. Real strength is not suffering silently. It is speaking up, setting boundaries, and having the courage to let people prove they can change while accepting they might not. Pain reveals character, but grace allows redemption. And sometimes, the family that breaks apart is the only family that can truly heal. So here is what I want to ask you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? How did you balance protecting yourself with staying open to change? I would love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button so more people can find it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more real stories about real struggles and how people navigate them. And share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone dealing with chronic pain, family conflict, or the challenge of forgiving while still protecting themselves. Thank you for listening to my story, for being part of this community, for showing up even when the topics are difficult. I hope whatever you are facing today, you find the courage to speak your truth and the wisdom to extend grace while maintaining boundaries. Take care of yourselves. And remember that healing is not linear, but it is always possible.